And
I was muted. They're slowly coming through.
Yeah.
You might want to give them just a moment.
Excellent. Thanks, guys, for jumping on. We see some people, jumping into the participant list. So we'll give it, a 30 seconds or so before we get started, so you guys can get, get situated. Great. And I see some familiar names there. That's great.
All right. I think you're probably good to go now.
Excellent. Great. Well, thanks everyone for joining. You are in the UBTECH Education webinar for robotics in the classroom. And we have a great guest we'll introduce in a moment, but we'll go ahead and just, dive in. A few, pieces of housekeeping. We do encourage you guys to connect with us if you have any questions along the way that you want to ask later. Feel free to email us at info@ubtecheducation.com, and you visit our website at ubtecheducation.com. For all of our social posts, please, reference, feel free to tag us on all social at UBTECH.edu. A couple of notes. This webinar is being recorded. We will be hosting this later on our website. So feel free to reference it. So in case you miss anything or want anything to be repeated, feel free to reference the recording. We'll also be sharing this out after the session with a survey. So we do encourage everyone to complete this survey. This will give you a chance to let us know your thoughts, and also let us know if there's any topics you want us to cover in the future. Also, before we get started, feel free to drop any questions into the chat. If you have questions along the way, or just have something you want to bring up, feel free to connect within the chat. We'll try to answer questions throughout the presentation, or at the end of the session. So great. So jumping in, just to introduce you guys to myself. As I mentioned, I do see a lot of familiar names in the participant list, so you guys probably know me, but my name is Rusty Nye. I'm the EDU product manager. I specialize in professional development, so a lot of you guys might have seen me, through our PD side. So this is an image that I always mention is a picture of my LinkedIn profile, and I have my LinkedIn tag at the bottom. So I do encourage you guys to connect with me on LinkedIn. I try to share a lot of what's happening within UBTECH. And yeah, I'll turn over to my colleague, Kristina Davis, who is also joining us. So Kristina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kristina Davis. I am the educational specialist here at UBTECH. My email, Twitter, LinkedIn are on there. You're welcome to follow me, find me, reach out however you want. You might have seen me at shows, and then my main focus is curriculum and sales. So if you have any questions for those things, I can help you out there. And I know, Rusty, you're going to the next slide, but just FYI, we have a couple other TAP teachers on as well.
Great, awesome. And excellent. So there is, someone joining us, as you guys can see. So I do want to turn it over to Claire Brown, who is one of our fabulous TAP teachers. So when we use that acronym TAP, that is our Teacher Ambassador program. With Claire, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, that'd be great.
Hi, everybody. I'm Claire Brown. So I teach in Menominee, Wisconsin, which is right in the middle of the state. I've been a teacher for 14 years, a STEM teacher for 4. So that's kind of where I'm doing most of my robotics now, but I started in the elementary and now teach middle school. So I have a lot of varying degrees of knowledge, as you can imagine, going from 4th grade to all the way to 8th grade now. So I'll be sharing kind of what I do in the classroom.
Great. Thanks, Claire. So yeah, definitely feel free to Claire a warm welcome in the chat. But yeah, we're really happy that Claire is joining this webinar and providing her perspective. Great, so our brief agenda today, we're first going to, of course, start off by introducing you to UBTECH and who we are as a branch of UBTECH Education. From there, we're going to dive directly into our curriculum. So we develop a lot of curriculum in-house. And Kristina is going to lead us through a lot of our curriculum catalog and what we have to offer. From there, we are going to turn it over to Claire, who's going to provide that teacher perspective and give you guys some insight on how you can focus on teaching a robotics program, so particularly in the classroom setting. And then finally, as always, we will have time for Q&A. So definitely, try to think of those questions along the way, and we'll try to answer all questions towards the end of this session. Great. So first, if you guys are unaware, UBTECH is a global robot manufacturing company. So we do develop robotics and AI integrated technology for consumers, businesses, and also for classrooms. We do have this overarching goal of trying to develop technology to help enhance and enable our daily lives. I do like to mention the robot you'll see in the middle of our screen is one of our UVC disinfecting robots. This is ADDIBot S. So this is one of our big initiatives that we're currently focusing on in the enterprise space, where we are developing robotics specifically designed to disinfect environments. Really interesting, really cool stuff. If you want to know more about this, definitely visit our website. In addition to UBTECH as this larger manufacturing company, we do have a North American specific division of UBTECH, UBTECH Education, is where Kristina are both associated with. Within this division of UBTECH, we are a small but very mighty team, if you will, where we try to specialize and create solutions particularly designed for the educators, in our particular market. So we develop we develop our products as well as high quality curriculum to accompany all of our products for classroom educators. And that's kind of where we're going to shift gears now, in that we want to really focus on what we have created for educators moving into the classroom. And with that, I'll throw it over to Kristina.
Okay, so I'm just going to give you some quick details of what we offer just overall. I will say that on the webinar links page, I've linked all of our UKITs, so you can look those up more. I've linked, put in a link to our chatbot, and then also if you want to view samples of our curriculum that I'm going to talk about, you can also register for a free account through our website, and you can view samples of all of that. I think that's everything. Oh, and then at the bottom, it says additional resources not included in the webinar. We're not going to discuss all the topics that are covered in the curriculum today. So there are slides that are linked in there that will give you all of the science concepts that are covered. So if you're interested in that, please go check that out. Otherwise, you can always reach out to me afterwards if you have any questions. So this is just an overall slide showing of what we kind of offer curriculum wise. There are some other things we offer like activity cards and such that aren't included on here, but we do have curriculum for each of our UKITs. So that's the beginner, intermediate, advanced. Those are NGSS aligned. If you're Texas or another state that doesn't use that, cover your ears. So we say STEM units because they can still be used within the classroom, even if you don't do NGSS. And then chatbot has a couple STEM units that are also focused on some computer science topics. And then we've got camp curriculum throughout there for the middle three. And then those are very engineering focused, but easier if you're going to be using them in the classroom because they're not a full unit. They don't take up as much time. So they're an easier implementation in my opinion. And then the AI foundations are actually not tied back to any of our kits. So they are freestanding curriculum on their own that utilize free resources and such. So we'll talk about some of those in more detail here as in the next couple slides. All right, so our UKIT curriculum is color coordinated, which if you're an elementary teacher and love that, you are with me. Love all the color coordination that we do. So we've got the beginner at the top. You can see the 3 titles and the length for each one. The intermediate in the middle and the advanced at the bottom. I will note the intermediate is still in various stages of being updated. And so if you get on and look at our samples right now, you might see a temporary guide as opposed to a final guide. And do know that those last 2 guides are being combined at the moment and being reworked. So I know it looks like they don't offer a lot of hours at the moment, but they will match up with the rest. But do know that we focus on the engineering design process. So we have our own little loop that you can see kind of there. We do 6 eyes. Everybody kind of does their own thing. You don't have to use our engineering design process to complete these. You can use your own. We also follow the 5E format. So if you're familiar with the 5Es for lesson writing, we do engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. So all of our lessons, all of our guides are set up the same way for ease of flow. So if you're picking up a beginner guide, you should be able to pick up and follow an intermediate guide as well. All right, next, please. AI foundations, again, set up the same way, 5Es. Some of the lessons actually do incorporate the engineering design process, but these are all focused around the 5 big ideas of AI. So that's the graphic you see on the left there. We do split them up by grade bands. So we start K2 here, which is great because our UKITs start in grade 3. So this gives your younger kids something to do, and we go up 9, 12. Each grade band can be taught independently, but you do need to follow Unit 1, Unit 2. I wouldn't start with Unit 2 because you're going to miss some of the background info that was taught in Unit 1. And these teach the basic concepts of artificial intelligence and computer science. All right, and then some of our other offerings. So we have a camp after school program that Rusty, it was his baby for the last several years. We've got lots of curriculum for beginner and intermediate. We're going to be rebranding this to be called Beyond the Classroom Curriculum. So if you see changes, if you're in our curriculum account, just know it's the same thing. So yeah, you've got some options there with some fun camps and engineering projects. And then the UKIT Spark Starters are rebranded GMU cards. They're just activity cards. So you can set these out with a kit or two at a table with some kids and give them a time frame, you know, like 20 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever you have time for. Great for maker spaces, right? After school programs, whatever. The kids get some sort of prompt and then they have to free build on their own to solve that prompt. So super fun, super open-ended. Right, next slide, please. All right, ChampBot curriculum. ChampBot has 2 guides, grades 3, 5, and grade 6, 8. Very similar. All that's different really on these is 6, 8 expands and goes further with the IR sensor. So that's that extra lesson there. So if your kids are familiar with sensors, you could probably juggle between the 2 guides if you wanted to. Right now, if you purchase a class pack with us, you get a free ChampBot. So then you get this curriculum that goes with that as well. So it's kind of nice if you want to use that for anything. And ChampBot also has camp curriculum. So all sorts of things with ChampBot. All right, so like I said, if you want to view our curriculum, this link is on that webinar links page, which I just saw several people jump into the webinar. So I will relink that here in just a moment, but you can register for an account on our site. If you go to our website in the right corner, it will say login register. And so you just create a free account. And this is what our dashboard looks like. So once you get here, I know sometimes it's not as intuitive as we think it is, but if you're looking at like UKIT Advanced, you would just click on the UKIT Advanced tab. It's going to bring up a little description of what we offer. And then it's going to have tiles underneath that are titled. So it'll say like UKIT Advanced Sample. It'll say UKIT Advanced Orbot, because that's the title of a curriculum piece. So make sure you just click on those tiles. You'll find all the stuff we have offered there. And then if you are on here and you actually have any of our kits and you're like, hey, I didn't even know there was curriculum, shoot us an email and we'll get you access to the curriculum that you get. There you go. I think that's it for me. Back to you, Rusty.
Oh, great. So, I mean, as you can see, there is a lot. Kristina and the team have been very busy. So there is a lot to utilize. And something I think that really, holds us apart is especially all of our UKIT stuff does have a lot of extra resources, including student guides, which I think is very helpful. We pretty much are trying to benefit, any sort of scenario, any sort of educator that's out there. And so we do want to turn it over now and really hear from that perspective from a teacher that's actually working out there in the field. So without further ado, I will go ahead and turn it over to Claire.
All right. Hello, everybody. Just to give you a little bit more of where I'm coming from. So I teach middle school STEAM. I have every student in our entire building for 6 weeks, and then they rotate. So a lot of my robotics has to be short and kind of to the point. but definitely looking to expand that as I continue to learn and grow. So this kind of started 4 years ago. I was originally a math teacher, 7th grade, and then coming over to the STEAM. So coming over here, I knew nothing. I knew nothing about robotics, basically nothing about coding. And so this is kind of how I've learned and grown with my program, and realize that even if it's intimidating for you to start, that just starting is great and you're going to get better as you go. But so this is kind of how I used and what I've used to start, and what I've learned kind of works through that trial and error process. I wish I was ambassador my first year, and then I would have learned so much more. But so 4 years ago, I kind of started. This is with my 6th grade classrooms. That's what these pieces are now. My goal is to start small, like I said, and then kind of build. So the kids, when they're coming to me, kind of have really varying degrees depending on what elementary school they went to with robotics. And it's mainly been if their teachers are really interested in robotics, they're really good to go. And have done a lot. And then there's ones that elementary teachers weren't interested in robotics, so have never touched a robot or done any coding before they got to me. So they're coming to me with all kind of those different degrees. And then this is how I start them. So I say start small, but have an end goal in mind, because build a robot isn't probably going to show up on your curriculum. But what could you do with that robot? What could you promote? What standards are you looking for them to cover in the end? So I use CTEs, so Career and Technical Education Standards. So a lot of mine is problem solving. I want the kids to come up with a problem and then work the rest of the way through it, work with each other. But if you're a science teacher, it could be a specific science skill. It could be going through the rainforest and having your robot demonstrate the different levels, or with health, there's so much with circulation and different standards like that that you could do, that you really can incorporate it into any class. I've recently been in contact with my English teachers to see if they could do some retelling of novels that they've read, or incorporate their robotics in that way as well. So just getting that and kind of determining what that is for you and what you want your goal to be. So this is how I start, though. I start with coding. Since all of my students do code the robots in the end, we don't do any of the pre-made codes that are out there, especially for the UKITs. They have really great, especially if you're new, they have really great starter kind of codes for you that you can look at and kind of see how they did it, and then work it towards what you want and kind of change. But my kids haven't done any coding when they've gotten to me. So we start with the binary code that's on the left. And then Rusty, if you want to play this video quickly. This is a video, we talk about coding people, and we try to get them through this maze. They're blindfolded, and usually we're all yelling at them. They're trying not to touch a book or they die, and we do dramatic deaths, and we talk about that scene as well. But basically to get them to start talking about specific directions and getting it narrowed down, that turn left isn't what you're going to put into a robot. That doesn't help. Turn how far, turn degrees. So we're really getting those specifics there. If you want to go to the next slide, please. Then with our 6th grade, I've started with Ozobots, just because, again, I didn't really know where to start. And Ozobots are a pretty easy robot to use. So for mine, I do kind of marker coding for 6th grade, looking to expand that out, since I'll be getting a little bit more time next year to do more of the coding online. But again, just starting with any of that block coding, especially if they haven't done coding in the past, and UCode is really good at that as well. There's a couple different programs I put up on the screen. But again, most of mine is problem solving and working through the design process. So that's what I'm focusing on. So my end goal is, how can they problem solve their way through this? But again, if your end goal is teaching the solar system and coding a robot to demonstrate the orbit around the sun, you would maybe start that a little bit differently. Or like I said, the UKITs are awesome for that as well. For 7th grade, how I start with them. So since they've done coding before and they've had this experience with 6th grade, I kind of try to build onto it. So they've been doing that block coding with the Ozobots. And then this year we started with the UKIT Advance. So they got to build their robot. They got choice this year because again, mine is the design process. So I let them choose which robot in the advanced kit they wanted to pick, and then they had to code it. And I kind of created a maze for some of them. Some took out their music from their music folders because they're really excited about that. And it shows that later, and coded different songs through the air guitar that is in the UKIT. I've had some code it with the Ozobot. And then 8th grade, I've done the UKITs and I've done VEX robots with. So next year, I'm hoping to get more into the UKIT with the robotic arm. We do a lot of automation equipment, starting to get them more on that production and thinking about industry. So this year they did it with the VEX at the beginning of the year because they didn't have the UKITs at the beginning of the year. They did it where they had to pick up a product that they had created and bring it to the next part of the assembly line. I think I'd like to incorporate the UKIT. They have a robotic arm. That's super cool. So kind of incorporate that into the automation as well. So that's what I do for each grade level. On here talking about, again, if you want to go to the next slide, I can maybe explain it a little bit better. But again, if you're new to robotics, start with a concept that's really familiar to you. So I am really familiar with music. I was a show choir kid growing up. I helped with the musical. That's kind of my thing besides this. So that's kind of where I went into the music integration. But if you're new and you're just excited about getting your hands on robots, start with trying to move an object to the other side of the room or code your way through the maze. Or anything that you're familiar with. If you're familiar with the science, if you're a science teacher and you've been teaching circulation throughout the body, great. Let's pick up some oxygen from your lungs, go through your heart, travel your way through the body and come back. If that's something that's working for you, that's great. And if you're nervous about robotics, like I said, pick something that you're really interested in, because that I think just rubs off on the kids so much. My classroom is never quiet. It will never be quiet because the kids are so excited to come there. And I'm so excited to be teaching these things and have them problem solving through that it is for sure. Luckily, I'm like on my own wing of the building, but we are loud and we're practicing, talking about different ways to help. They're helping each other. Rarely am I their first resort. I kind of train them that way, but I'm usually like the backup to the backup. And usually if they come to me first, I'm like, oh, have you asked Noah? Noah seems pretty good at this. And then they're over there problem solving, and it's helping the kid that doesn't know it, but it's also giving, more of my advanced kids, like being able to pick out a problem in somebody's code or what's not put together right is like a totally different skill. And so, like I said, it's such a hub of activity that I could be teaching about anything, any concept I want. And the kids would all of a sudden think it's like revolutionary. I could go back, I'm STEAM, so I integrate a lot of math. Because kids aren't excited about math in my school. Unfortunately, I've really tried to get it out there, but a lot of the times they aren't. So when we're talking about geometry or they're teaching about geometry, I often try to line up my week with the robots there. And then we're talking about degrees that they have to turn in their code, and we're bringing out the protractors. And this year especially, I've had so many of my actually high kids be like, well, I don't even know how to use this thing about a protractor. And I'm like, oh, well, there we go. We better be working on that. And then we do an impromptu lesson on how to read a protractor. So a lot of it's, thinking on your feet, but the kids are so excited about it. If you don't know the answer and you say, let's look that up on YouTube. They're like pumped to do that. Or if you say, oh, I have no idea. Why don't you go search that for me? They're always bringing back to me, and they think I'm a genius. My students do, even though I tell them all the time I have no clue about something, and they'll be like, oh, you did that on purpose, about that I didn't know something. I'm like, oh yeah, that's how I would have done it when they come back. But the kids are just so excited about it.
That was like my favorite part of teaching, right? Is they would be like, oh, look at what I did. Did you know this? And I'd be like, I had no idea. Didn't know you could.
No clue about that cheat. And for my first year, I didn't.
Right? You don't need to know. The kids will figure it out.
They will figure it out. They're so good at just that problem solving. And I think it's really important to like, I often point that out, like, you didn't know that when you came in here and all of a sudden you figured it out. Why don't you try that in science class instead of like get frustrated with something that I talk about it later, but just the advantage of like the perseverance, because kids get so frustrated with robotics on day one. Day one, they are frustrated and angry at me. By day 3, they are all in. And they're so excited about just continuing learning and the whole process. Once they start getting it, it's like a snowball effect. You know, that first day is frustrating because it just doesn't come natural necessarily to many kids, or they haven't done it before. But it's just that snowball, like then they know more, then they know more, then they know more. And then it's just like this whole world that I could keep going and living in forever. And then they leave me after 6 weeks and they're very sad. If you want to play this video, this is Jingle Bells that a kid recorded, if you can do the audio on it. Kind of cutting out, but you can see I show his code, and it took him probably 45 minutes to figure out this entire sequence with the loops, but he was so excited, and so we recorded it and just show it. I show administrators everything because I'm always asking for money for robotics. So if admin doesn't come to me, I go to them and I find them throughout the day and be like, isn't this awesome? And then I have students kind of present to them all the time and show them just like how much work this was. And he didn't do, this wasn't even an assignment. This is when he had some free time in class and he came up with Jingle Bells and took out his sheet music from orchestra so he could see exactly what note to play on each one.
I'm not very musical, and that's really impressive to me, just to be able to program all the notes.
But it's such a great connection, right? Like, I'm sure the music teacher loved this.
Yeah,
like band, choir. Yeah.
I sent him around the school. I was like, show anybody that you can get to show, because the more people talking about my class, the better.
I definitely want to take your class there.
It's super fun. We do 3D printing and woodworking in that 6 weeks too. So it is high and fast paced. If you want to go to the next slide, just so I can kind of show, we also do drones. So we do code drones. If any of you are familiar with those. And I set up a maze in the lunchroom. And I used to do it outside, but being in Wisconsin, I hate going outside in January when I have some of these kids. It's miserable. So I sent it up in the lunchroom, and it's actually awesome because it's right across from the office. So the office staff is always seeing what we're doing. And like I said, drawing in everybody else. Oh, hula hoops, Paul. I like that idea. That's one to keep on. I started with PVC pipes, but it just was getting knocked down too often, and I was resetting it up because I didn't want to glue it together and have this constantly in my room. So I just moved it out to the cafeteria and popped up some tables. So my kind of basics, we really only have like 3 days to do drones in my class by the end. But so you can see this maze. This first one says you have to fly over it. And then you kind of have to turn around this table and fly under that next piece of tape and then land it safely on one of the tables on that far side. Well, of course, me being, robotics teacher, I thought, oh, well, they'll have to fly up for a second and then fly forward, and kind of feel it out and trial and error it. Well, these kids, like I said, kids' knowledge grows faster than mine. They coded it so they could use their computers as a remote. So they just flew it.
Wow.
So they flew it through and they used, the old, ASZW, like your old controls for Atari and stuff like that. And they just flew it through the maze. So of course they get full credit because they did it and they coded it. But I was like, every time a kid, I think, oh, this is going to take a while. You're going to have to really problem solve it away. They're going to find a way to do it better, faster. And it was awesome. I didn't let them tell other groups because I'm making the other groups figure it out for their own self or finding different ways. But they did it super fast and it was kind of just awesome. And I've had this happen with every robotics that I make it at home. I try different things and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, this is how they'll have to do it. And they're like, oh no, they're digging deep through the program. They're going to the advanced. I have one kid like linking different programs into it. I don't even know how to do it. And I'm like, he tells me about it and I'm sure he's explained it to me 1,000 times. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I would have thought. Back to that. But they're just so smart. Or I say, oh, that's awesome. Have you shown so-and-so? And they go and show somebody else. But they're just, when they're kids, when kids are excited, they just do awesome things. And they're capable of so much more than so many people give them credit for, that if you just let them go, and that's kind of my last slide here, is just let them play. Give them time. It is so important for them to have time to play. I know standards we're pushing all the time, but so much just organic learning comes from that playtime. This is my favorite video, by the way, of my daughter, who I was letting play with one of our drones in class. And of course she flew it directly into the wall. Look at that look at me.
Well, we should watch that again. That's hilarious.
That is great.
My students give me the same look when they do it. But just to let them learn, that, and this is just a VEX that they kind of built on their own spare time. And then they were taking it down to the office and showing them there. So that it was just, it's so important that they get that playtime, because otherwise we're constricting their minds, and they're capable of so much more than even I'm capable of. That if I say this is the way to do it, I'm hindering what they're actually capable of. So I always give a day or two of just playtime in my class. And luckily I have administration that's like, oh yeah, do what you need to do. And because I have such a good relationship with admin and show them so many things that we do, that they let me go. And I mean, if you need to come up with a standard, we can come up with a standard. You email me, I'll find a standard that will allow for free playtime. But it's just so important to me that I think that's one of the main things of robotics, is just play around with it, see what you can figure out. And you always have some kids that need a goal to kind of push them forward. But once one kid figures something out, all the other kids want to do that. And then they push it further. And so just that, like I said, that unstructured playtime just pushes them so much further than even I can imagine where they will go. So.
For sure.
And then my last piece of advice, if you want to go to the next one, is just, become a part of a PLC, find a community, especially if you're new to robotics. Luckily, I get to be part of this TAP program this year. And that's really cool. I've definitely learned so much, and those teachers have pushed me to be so much better. But these are just some Facebook groups that you can join that are always spewing ideas. And if I post a question because I don't know how to fix something, there's 100 answers within 30 minutes, because people are just like, robotics people are my people. I don't know. You want to help, and they're so excited about what they do. And I mean, I am too, but like, just everyone that I've met that's into robotics is so helpful and wants you to be successful that they're willing. I've had people from other communities come into my school and help me because I haven't been able to figure something out. Or just we've even talked over Facebook or Messenger or anything. And there's so much like, oh, send a picture, I'll figure it out. And then they come back and have it figured out for me. So just find your people.
That's so awesome. And we have these linked in the webinar links page. So if you don't have that, if you didn't pull that from the chat, let us know, because then you can just click right into those groups. You don't have to take them from the slides.
And then the last one is just, I think maybe you guys are going to talk about it on a little bit. I just put some of the benefits. Obviously, like I've been preaching how much hands-on learning it is. The students, it is a hub, is excitement. I tell my admin, and they agree that reasons for like robotics is bringing the kids there in the morning. I have kids that won't miss a day of my class, or during COVID, this last one, were sobbing because they got quarantined because they were going to miss 2 weeks of my class. And so I'm sending home robotics. I'm dropping them off at their doorstep and picking them back up, because it's so much excitement and so much just a little love. And like, they're so excited to come to my class that it's not a struggle for me. If a kid misses, they always make it up, whether they make it up at home or they come in early or they ask if they can join a different grade, like class hour. Like I have kids in my room all the time that probably shouldn't be there, but even kids that are in school suspended, occasionally I have them take any robotics apart that I've left together. I bring them down there and be like, organize this kit for a while and utilize this. And they're like excited too. And they're happy to bring it to me at the end of the day, which, okay, maybe, but like it's making a lot less work for me. So definitely join them in. I mean, it's teaching students problem solving and that perseverance and the cooperation. The student recruitment. So every kid has to take my class in the middle school, but they actually brought me in versus a tech ed teacher, which I know is whatever, but I'm adding a tech ed license. So don't worry, I will be tech ed certified this year. But when I started adding robotics into this class that didn't have it previously, my levels at the high school have gone up. Over 50% of students that are taking it have grown. So they've had to start turning away students from taking those classes in the high school. That's how popular the high school CTE program has become because of this learning that they're doing at the middle school. So I think there's no higher compliment than students wanting to continue on despite being forced with me for 3 years.
Kudos to you, Claire. That's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, it was super exciting when they've gone up every year. We haven't had a single dip. So it's just really exciting to me that they want to continue. And I think this is the way of the future, whether people are happy about that or not. And, you know, they're seeing that and they're seeing the value and they're having fun. So that's the best way we can actually learn.
Yes, for sure.
And from my side, you know, I mean, I couldn't say it better than Claire, but I just see such a strong benefit of introducing robotics to really build this idea of perseverance. And that idea of building perseverance with technology, I think is such a key component to creating, valued problem solvers. So instilling that idea of overcoming challenges utilizing technology, I think goes such a long way with a student's, educational career, and also, their post school career as well. I know we've all had those challenges of, trying to connect, different types of devices. I mean, going back to trying to connect a VCR, back in the day, and finding it being so, such a task and so hard to figure out what to do. But trying to kind of instill that there are ways to troubleshoot and there are ways to address, problems specifically with technology, to overcome and figure out a solution. I think it's such an important, part of, building this and instilling this idea within students to be able to tackle different problems and figure out different solutions to those, by trying to limit those frustrations. I think that's where robotics just kind of stands apart from, a lot of different kind of hands-on approaches to instilling this idea of perseverance. But yeah, that's my 2 cents. Those are my biggest, what I see such a big advantage of introducing robotics in the classroom to instill that. And I see this working in all different, just as Claire mentioned, all different, backgrounds from students, students that may, not be excelling in other educational areas can excel in robotics. Students that are, over excelling in, traditional areas still kind of find their niche in robotics. I feel like it could kind of bridge the gap between, a lot of different students at once, just by examining, having fun. And also something big I think Claire brings up is this idea of letting students play, figure out stuff on their own, and having fun with it just, goes such a long way, with students in the classroom. Great. Excellent. Well, Claire, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. I know everyone feels, I hope everyone feels as inspired as I do, because I definitely am going to look up flights to go to Wisconsin and jump in class.
Come on in, we'll take anybody.
Yeah.
I've also had all the board members in my room at one time or another. I get everybody in there. I need buy-in.
Great.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, don't jump off yet. We're taking questions. If you have questions for Claire, you want to talk to her about projects she does or lessons, we're going to give you a moment to get these in. So go ahead and start typing those away now. We're going to skip to the next couple slides and we'll come back to Q&A, so don't leave. So next slide, please, for a moment.
And don't leave. We do have an exciting announcement at the end. So
you do, and my slide didn't show up unless you moved it. Did you move it?
I have not, no.
Okay, so we might have to switch screens here.
Yeah, I may have to.
What's up?
I may have to.
Okay, you're fine. Okay, so next month we've got May 11th, perspectives on teaching STEM and robotics and STEM. We have 2 TAP teachers. Is that right? Who are our 2 TAP teachers? I think
so we have Warren from North Carolina will be joining us, and then also we have Brian from Ohio. So we have 2 educators that work with different types of students, different populations. We have a high school and a middle school teacher jumping on. So they're going to come in and provide, their perspectives on what it's like teaching robotics. And both of these teachers are really impressive in terms of what they've done. So I'm really excited to have a conversation with them. So I strongly encourage you guys to sign up and join this one. This will be a really good one as well.
Okay, let's go back to Q&A. And if you want to, there's 1 question, 2 questions.
Right.
If you want to go back to Q&A or if you want to refresh, whatever you want to do, but don't leave yet because we have a special surprise today. Kenny Bay has asked you, Claire, how many kits do you use per class?
So I use as many as I can. Luckily, I have a lot of different, that's why I've kind of been bouncing around this year. I have about 15 VEX robots. And UKIT, how many do I have from you guys?
Like 6 or 8 or something, right?
6 or 8. So usually about 5. I try to get it to 2 kids per kit. Sometimes as they're working, just because I noticed as the more I add, the less certain ones do.
Yeah.
So I've tried to keep it about 2 per kid. Sometimes it has to be 3. I rarely allow 4. But
and I think that depends on age, right, too. Like elementary kids, I think usually do better in 3 or 4 because you can give them jobs, right? And then they're all excited for jobs. And then as you get older, definitely, I probably wouldn't go more than 2 or 3 either.
Yeah.
Okay, Rusty, this question is for you from Paul. Paul asks, is UBTECH exploring creating a virtual platform for their classroom kits, virtual simulation of the controller, and choosing parts to plug in, or a ready build robot? So I thought you could talk about virtual robots real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So Paul, you are definitely, Paul is one of our TAP teachers as well. But he's probably very familiar, but we currently do have a virtual platform within UCode where we have 6 different virtual environments to interact with. We are kind of behind the scenes working on more environments and more interaction with those environments. But that'll be, you know, in the future, hopefully in the, you know, near future. But currently we do have, if you log on to UCode, which is our online browser-based coding platform, these 6 different environments are 3D versions of our robots that students can build, but they can actually program and code them to interact within these virtual environments themselves, you know, all without having, you know, tangible robotics at hand. So it's a great way to, you know, interact with robotics without, you know, having, you know, the physical robotics in front of you, or also test your code prior to, you know, uploading that to your robot itself.
All right, Rusty, I have another question for you.
Oh, great.
Well, two questions. One I can answer, one's for you. So Danielle is asking, how can I go about getting curriculum for the intermediate kits I have? So Danielle, all you have to do is reach out to Rusty or I. If you go on our website, in the top right corner, it says login register. You can create a free account there, and then we'll get notification of that, and then we can open up your access. But feel free, reach out to one of us, and we can go back and share our emails with you. Rusty, question, will there be any other trainings on maybe transitioning from intermediate kits to advanced kits?
That's a great question. And Danielle, I think that's something, yeah, we would definitely explore in terms of future webinars. You can log onto our website and see the webinars we have planned, but we're always, you know, looking for new ideas. And as we mentioned in the beginning, we will send out a survey of which, you know, we'll kind of request your ideas for different topics. So we'll definitely make note of that. And that's something we definitely can discuss. I think that's a great topic, to be honest. And I think that's something we should really put on the list.
And I think not only for our webinars, but you guys, we offer professional development. Rusty is our featured professional development trainer, but you can go on our website and you can pull up and look at what our virtual offerings are, what our in-person offerings are, pricing's all on there. You can always reach out to Rusty and ask questions. And he caters to everybody.
And I missed a plug for the PD, yeah, but
yeah, come on, Rusty.
Come on. But yeah, we do, Danielle. We offer virtual training options as well as in-person options. But we definitely work with educators to try to tailor our offerings to meet the needs of educators. So, you know, we definitely can do kind of pre-meeting and before going into a session to make sure you guys are getting exactly what you want out of different, you know, training options. So if you're interested with that, we can definitely work with you to develop a nice, you know, training that meets your specific needs that you're looking for.
For sure. All right, I think that's it for questions. I mean, feel free, you can still send them in if you want, but we want to get to the next slide because I'm sure some people are ready to jump off. But we have a special thing for those of you today. You can thank Tony in the chat if you want. He has made this decision. So if you are in the US, sorry, we have to limit this to the US. And I know we have a couple international people today, so that's exciting. But if you are within the 50 states and you are working at a school, if you email us at education@ubtrobot.com with your school mailing, shipping, whatever we need to get the robot there, we will send you a free Champbot. And then you can get free curriculum. TAP teachers, this includes you. Lucky you for joining today.
Tony,
yeah, don't tell everybody.
Tony, hook me
up. Tony, we have a question for you. If you could put in the chat, how about the US territories here in the Western Pacific Ocean? Oh, yay, people are so excited. So Arnell, we'll get back to you. We'll see if Tony can respond on there, assuming he didn't jump off. He did not jump off. We'll see what we can answer for you there, but yay, this is so exciting. We've never done a giveaway before, so don't tell everybody. No, I mean, do tell everybody, but Yes, so there you go. Free chant bot for you guys. Just make sure you email us. Arnell, Tony says that should be fine. So shoot us an email, education@ubtrobot.com. Give us your name, email, or a name and mailing address, and we'll get something figured out for you. And then next slide. We don't want you to forget. Oh, next, and then next, there we go. Do connect with us. So social media platforms, we're everywhere. UBTECHeducation.com is our website. Remember, this is recorded. You will get an email of the recording if you missed it. You could share it with all your friends and be like, hey, getting a free robot, you're not. No, I'm just kidding. You will also get a survey link. This survey comes right back to Rusty and I, and it's really just feedback for us. We'd love to know if there's something we didn't cover, something you loved, something you hated, something you want us to do next time. Like, please fill that out. Let us know what you think, so that we can continue to do webinars in the future. And please let Claire know how she did, because she'll be on too. We can share that with her. But yeah, feel free, you guys. In the recording, remember, you'll have all of our email addresses from the beginning too, so you can reach out to Claire with questions. She put her email on there. Join those communities, all sorts of fun stuff. Anything you guys want to leave with?
I just definitely want to thank Claire for taking the time to share your perspective. I think that was invaluable. I loved what you provided, and I really appreciate you taking the time. So thank you, Claire.
You're welcome.
All right.
No, thanks for having me. This was fun.
You were awesome. Very fun.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, everyone. It was great to have you this month. We will see you next month, May 11th.
See you guys May 11th. Okay.